Yep.
Uh, there it goes. All right. Well, hey everybody, welcome back to Coaches on Call. I'm Lori Hamilton, and this is
Holly Fogle.
and my partner in crime, and we're kicking off our agent interview series. So Holly and I decided, we're always giving you guys sustainable business tips, but let's talk to some of our agents who we feel like have made a really good impact in their own business. And Sherri, welcome. This is Sherri Burdeshaw. And oh, and by the way, y'all, we are going totally off the cuff because that is Sherri's style. Like we love Sherri and she is just off the cuff. And in fact, I was like, hey, I'll send you some questions. And you're like, I'm better just going with whatever. And I'm like, you are. So like the planner and me, I'm like, okay, I have some questions I might ask you, but you have no idea what they are.
I have no idea what topics we're going to cover. Like, I'm just ready to go.
Okay, well,
Love it.
I'll throw a few things out here, but we want to do this series because we think it's important to shine the light on people that are actually having fun in their business these days, considering, hey, it's always been not always, but it can be challenging getting a business going in real estate. But the last year or so has not been the rock star years we had in COVID and a couple of years past COVID. And you actually had your best year in 2024. And you're primarily like by referral only agent. And both Holly and I have gotten to work with you in your unique approach to business and
For
how
sure.
you really talk with your clients and they are in your inner circle and how it all goes. So, you've never met a stranger at all.
Okay.
You've never met a stranger. I'm just kind of trying to set everybody up for who Sherri is because
Yeah, yeah.
we're in for a fun ride today.
You
Like
don't know what
we're in for a fun
a
ride.
box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get.
I know, but we love it. You've never met a stranger. You're one of the most outgoing people I think I know. Probably Holly knows too.
Mm-hmm.
And you love people. You have major FOMO if you're going to be knowing that you're missing out on something, and you're also very learning based. So you joined our brokerage about 2 or 3 years ago, and that's what we've picked up on with you. And what I want people to know what you're doing that really works for you, that really helped get you going because you were a strength coach in a past life and how that you've
Yeah,
told me over and over how that has served you.
yeah.
And that's really kind of what I wanted to focus on today was how your past life did serve you, but then also what you're doing now to keep going and be sustainable.
All right. So
Yeah.
thank you for having me, first of all. Yeah, my mom used to always joke, but not really a joke, that when we go on road trips in the car, and she's like, I'm going to count to three and see if there's silence. And she said she never got to three. So apologies ahead of time. But I'm a people person. I'm very grateful that I guess from a young age, I just got involved in my church a lot. And we had a very small church. So that was kind of a nice impression for me. Like 75 people was probably the most we had. And now I'm like a North Point girl, so like the opposite as far as big. But even then, I have a small group. Like that makes everything small. So no matter what environment I am, I think the number one thing I always try to do is seek relatability. I always, within minutes of meeting somebody, it's just a natural thing for me to try to find a commonality. I want to find something that we have in common. I just feel like it's just my natural way, but it has always made me comfortable if somebody did that. And I guess it's been very successful because when I talk to people, it's almost like once you do that, it almost brings a barrier down. And we all know our world can be very all over the place and division everywhere, but we're all humans. And when you find a commonality, I think right from the beginning, you have something in common. So you can kind of build off of that. So I'd say that's kind of the bedrock of how I begin relationships. And then I think I just try to be very intentional about you can't be everywhere all the time. But if there is something that's coming up in somebody's life or something that's important, just putting a note in your phone to reach back out to them can mean a lot. Again, it's always made an impression on me um, to when people address you by name. When I used to wait tables, building a business as a strength coach, I waited tables for a couple of years and I learned, that, yeah, I could make 15% tips if I just gave average service, but I'm there for a certain amount of hours. If I just give extraordinary service, I'll make more money while I'm there. And I have more fun doing it because it's enjoyable. I think people can pick up on that authenticity. So get used to me, unfortunately, jumping all over the place because I will put little parts of my life in there. But it
You are
is,
making this the easiest interview ever. At least
Uh,
I kind of
well,
think so. It's all
good.
good.
Well, all these things just kind of um, have they've been helpful to me over my life. And I was told early in my strength training career that it was a very male dominated field at the time. I know we all now can go on Instagram at any given time, and it's easily 50-50, I'm sure, strength coaches and personal trainers, women and men. But truly back then, I would go to conventions, and this is like 30 years ago, there would be like 800 men and like 11 women. Not joking. It was a very different world back then as a strength coach. And again, you better be comfortable in uncomfortable environments. You better be able to relate to all of them in some way, or try to find something just to enjoy the evening. So anyway, yeah, I don't know where you want me to go to it specifically, but that's just kind of a little bit of where I
Well,
come from.
well,
well,
let
I
me
love it.
okay.
I've got to jump in. I'm sorry.
Go, go, go,
I've
go. Yep.
got so much to unpack in that opener. First of all, you said like five huge key points that there's actually a document, and I need to pull it up, and it talks about characteristics. Um, if you have like, will you succeed like in real estate? Like it was a document that we had, and it talked about, I don't know if you remember that one, Lori. We'll have to find that one. And I don't always bring it up because sometimes like I know if I'm going to share it with someone that doesn't have a lot of these, I'm like, I don't think I want to share this. But it's kind of interesting because you just hit on, first of all, relatability, which is huge when you're in sales or trying to what you were saying, it kind of brings down that barrier, right? So it was relatability, it was commonality. And then I think the other part that's so important about that is that how can you then become intentional with that? Setting a reminder in the phone to send a note, to do. Plus, I have received one of Sherri's note, and she doesn't do notes. She doesn't do anything like just to check a box. So for her to do my personal note challenge was such a challenge because while some notes will come like, I don't have yours handy, like, and these are even pretty good, but some notes you'll get, it'll have, well, you don't have it, but anyway, it'll have like, thanks so much. Or like, I'll even tell people, use a Sharpie so you have less to say. She has to use like a pen and ink so that she can get every inch
Draw
of the
arrows to the
note
other side of the card. Yeah.
card and the back of the envelope. Like you start reading her card before you open the envelope because she had to go to the envelope to actually finish off. So she does everything with this intention. And then Lori introduced her. The very last thing Lori said was that she's learning based. And what really struck me was that you said, these things made an impression on me. And that is how I now kind of pay it forward. And the only way that something can make an impression on you and then you implement it is if you're learning based. So you just wrapped up like a bunch of momentum classes, a bunch of
Oh,
sales
God.
classes, done.
Just kidding.
And then, the whole thing about having more fun. So I love that you came from an industry that you gave us some backdrop of, 800 to 11 and getting into an environment like that where not everybody would be comfortable. And you have a very unique, I find it to be unique skill of not just being able to go in and make other people feel comfortable, but that might be part of like what works and like something that I could learn from because I can't go into a room the way you can and be as comfortable and just start talking. Like how you come up with things to talk about, I don't know. But I think now it can be such a training, like a training tool that you can help us even in this conversation, like how you were able to do that and how your brain works to come up with things to bring up when you meet people, to be
Mm,
relatable, to find that commonality.
mm.
It's easy to me to be the receiver of your good energy, but how can the rest of us also be ones that give that good energy?
That's interesting. Well, thank you. First of all, I feel beyond flattered. Thank you guys so much. I feel always that I've been very blessed to do things that I love. And I've always been willing to grind and do things that, I'll clean toilets, I'll do whatever. I'll do the things that people don't want to do so I can have the income or consistency or whatever so that I can pursue the things that I love. Luckily, from a young age, my dad always believed in side hustles. And so I watched him be very intentional about, he was on medical disability, but I never saw my dad sit down like a day of his life. We had a garden that was like primo, taken care of. Would love to have one of those right now. It's a lot of work, but the rewards were great. And I watched him, buy cars and fix them up and sell them. And, he would buy something at discount and then sell it like a bulk thing. So I always was observing that. And quite frankly, he wanted me to work 9 to 5, and because he didn't grow up with much income. And I know myself, anybody that knows me for 5 seconds knows I cannot be, that structured thing would drive me crazy. I will work 24/7 if I have to on something. I will get it done, but I prefer to set my own pace. And the freedom to me was my financial reward. To me, that was the way I wanted to live my life. Now, when you're building a business, good to note that nobody tells you that. I remember early on, and this is a fun little story. I was training a guy, and he, one of my first personal training clients, and he had his own business, and we could talk for days about just how I learned about business from him, how I watched him take risks, and it was so inspiring. But this one day, he's like, "Hey, do you want to go to the lake? We're all going to go on the boat." And I was like, "Sure." It's at Lake Lanier, and it was like Thursday at like 2 o'clock, and I'm like, "Okay." Well, because in personal training, I usually have people in the morning, and I had people usually after work. A lot of times, I would wait tables in the middle of the day. So that particular day, I was like, "No, I'll make sure I go." So here I go at Lake Lanier, and we're out there at 2 o'clock in Cocktail Cove, and it's packed. And I'm like, "What? Why is everybody out here? Like, why aren't they at work?" And he goes, "Because we work for ourselves." And that light bulb moment for me was, I was like, yes, this is what I want. Now, little timeout. Immediately, you cannot do that. It took me about 10 years of grinding before I could afford to take that time. So much so that my friends used to tell me, like, not to bring my pager. Okay, that's dating me. Pager to the pool, because I didn't want to miss that client. I didn't want, if they called, I didn't want to miss. I never canceled on a client because I thought this might be the day that they're going to really be serious about their goals. And so I just never canceled. And I would, in turn, they had better success because you're not missing workouts, you're keeping on your goals. So that was an early lesson about learning about freedom. And then the other thing was, the guys that I largely worked with, I was friendly with my clients. And a lot of it was just moving to Georgia and just getting to know people. So early on, it was authentically like, what do you do around here? What do you like to do? But the guys that I worked with told me early on that I was too friendly with my clients and that I needed to treat it more like a business.
Mm.
And I was taken aback because I was like, uh-oh, I don't know how to deal with that information. This is the only way I know how to be. And I just couldn't do that. I couldn't separate the two. If you see me, and you guys know this about me, if you see me in real life, I'm the same in real estate. Like, you're not really going to see a difference. Now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean that if I have a client that in real estate, let's say I have a couple, and I'm working with them, maybe a listing or something. I'm going to find out, first of all, like, who's the decision maker, kind of get that dynamic. And I'm going to find out if let's say the woman is more analytical, then I'm going to speak to her analytic side. Or if she's the decision maker, then yes, I can bring that type of information to the meeting. And I can shift and adjust to do that because I can tell that that's her language. So I feel like I'll be more successful to do that. So I think I would pick up on things like that and try to identify what makes them tick, what makes them successful, and then meet them there. So you can't be so set in your ways that you're like, this is how I do it. Yeah, I might be outgoing, but I had a lady early in my career as a trainer who had carpal tunnel, so she couldn't grip anything, and she trained at 5:30 in the morning. I'm not a morning person, and she was very quiet. So I would have scared her to death if I just came in like, "Hey, let's go," So I had to learn to meet her where she was. I was able to deliver the knowledge and the help, but I had to temper it down a little bit so that I wouldn't overwhelm her. And so I think mimicking in that way,
Mm.
I think it's a skill. I do think that you have to read the room, and I think you have to be aware of that. So I think those are just some ways of early on, the light bulb moment with my client Randy,
Yeah.
and other cool things. And like I said, watching him take risks in his business, which is a whole other conversation. And then being told that maybe who you are isn't right. I even got that actually told that early in real estate. There was a very, very seasoned agent, and I think I kind of overheard that maybe she thought I was a little bit, I don't know if she didn't think I was serious because of my outgoing
Mm.
personality. And that was hurtful internally just because I thought, oh, I value people's opinions that have done things a lot longer than I have. I want to learn from them. I know what I don't know. And I did worry. I was like, oh, is that going to hurt me? But much like in the training world, I did take heed. I did pay attention to that. And that let me know that, okay, I do want to make sure I'm still conveying the right information and people are getting facts from me when it's necessary. But I can do that through my own language, like the way that I'm speaking. I can say, all right, we're going to talk about this is some stuff. This is kind of a priority right now. And I can bring them into focus and I can be serious about things.
Mhm.
But I can still have my conversational tone. So I do think but I will say it's a skill that is honed over many, many years of this is just who you are. And I think if you're who you are, you never have to worry about trying to be on or trying to be whatever.
I think that's an important point because I do think reading the room is important, but I also think the natural flow of who we are and how that comes across, is going to almost self-select our clientele to a certain degree.
Oh yeah.
I know my approach in training is not for everyone, and certain people have different sales skills that might not be. So I think that's what makes the world go round.
Yes.
But
And I'm not going to be for everybody. And you have to let go of that too. And that's okay. You can make a great referral and you can still be helpful to somebody.
yes,
Even if you can tell that maybe not be the best fit. Um, but yeah, it's funny. Let me maybe answer something that Lori said earlier. I think, or maybe Holly, you might have said it. I think you actually said it. You were saying like, how do I know what topics to talk about or how do I bring things up? I'll give you my most recent example that I can think of. So last week, about week and a half ago, I was getting my hair done. And my girl is like one of those little salon suites in Athens. And you're in this little lobby area with other people waiting for their hairdresser, right? And there was a lady there, really sweet lady. And it was a nice day. And we're just sitting there. And she pointed out there was a little Ugga bulldog and
mm,
we were just kind of observing the nice weather outside. And she said, oh, I have one like that. I dress up. I said, you do? I said, you dress up for all the seasons and whatever. And she said, yes. So we kind of just were talking about that. And then I said, oh, do you live near here? And because we are in Athens. And she's like, no, I live in Decula. Okay. Now,
mhm.
again, it's just I'm genuinely interested in like, okay, what do you like about tequila? Well, I love my little crepe place over here in downtown Brazelton. It's called
Mhm.
Galloping Galette. Well, I've met the owners. They're awesome. And she was like, the owner had just opened another restaurant in Decula. So I said, oh, have you been to the new French place that they just opened in Decula? And she's like, no. So I just was offering, you might check this place out. I love the restaurant in Brazelton. So she's like, no, I hadn't heard of it. And we talked about where it was at. And then we were talking about that. And then I'm always going to bring up real estate because I did learn early on. Somebody said, don't be a don't be a silent agent or something
Secret
like that.
agent,
Secret
secret
agent.
agent.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I always find a way to somehow say, I've got showings or whatever. And so I said that, and then I said something about I'm excited to go back over to Canton. I've got some showings this afternoon. I said I live in Brazelton now because she asked me where I lived, and I said, but I used to live in Canton. She's like, oh, and I said, but I'll be in the Crabapple, area. And she's like, oh, do you know much about Milton? I said, yes, that's like my stomping grounds. Like that's where most of the athletes I used to train. And we had talked a little about that. And she's like, oh, and that led into, well, her husband happens to be the executor of a probate property and it's not a relative, but they've got a 4-acre property that they're going to be, that they've been working on, and I could see the stress. And I said,
Mhm.
oh, I know that's difficult. I've been through a few of those. I said, do you have somebody helping you? She's like, no, we just been doing it, but it's a lot. And I said, well, I'll just tell you. I said, I have a great girl, and I'm speaking of Ruth. And I said, I've got a great girl. She's super helpful. I said, if you need any help, if you just want to make sure you've checked all the boxes and you've done all the things you need to do, I know it's difficult to navigate that by yourself. I said, just let me know. I'm happy to help you. I found out where where she was getting her hair done in the little suites. It was her granddaughter. So I said, I'll be right back. I ran out to my car, got my pens. I always have my merch, with me. And I hand a pen because I like a good bougie pen. Here's one of them, my little rose gold pen,
Oh, I
which
like that.
has my info on it, of course. And
I
this is my
like
business
that.
card. So I leave them with this. I also leave one of these when I sign checks at restaurants, and leave that because I like a good pen.
Hmm.
But anyway, I left it with her. Her name's Judy. We've been in touch. She just Facebook friended me the other day. I called her a week later just to say, hey, hope you're doing well, enjoying this weather. And just as a reminder, let me know if you need any help going over that stuff. She's going to talk to her husband. And so not only did we have a great conversation, she's
I
like,
love
thank you
it.
so much for reaching out. She wanted to Facebook friend me. And I will tell you, that was that thing again that, look, I stalk people on Facebook. I thought I was relieved because I thought she's going to see that I'm exactly the same person on Facebook that she met. She's not going to see anything different.
Hmm.
That's only going to help me in my business. So that is the most recent example, but that is a very normal type of thing that will happen to me or
I love it. That's
contacts.
so cool. So
You
Lori,
guys need to take some more.
anything else you want to get
Okay,
out of
so if
Sherry?
okay, so if we're gonna throw out any kind of, I'm gonna put you on the spot because you
Hot
love
seat,
it.
hot
Because
seat.
we're gonna, I know, a hot seat, hot seat. We're gonna wrap this up. But here's the question.
Okay.
Um, if you woke up with $0 in your bank account,
Oh boy.
you have no clients, no pipeline, what would you do to go get business?
Drive around all day going to like local businesses, shops, lunch, go sit at the bar at the local restaurant and work from there. Have a
See,
conversation.
and that is totally in line with who you are
Yeah.
because you will go have those conversations with people. It's that this is a question that was asked of me at a mastermind I just finished up at in Vegas at R4, and then I was like, I told Holly, I was like, we're gonna ask this at the end of each one just to see what everybody would do because I think we could all end up in that position at some point in time. You're just
Oh yeah,
like, I have no clients right now. What do I do?
that's
And
right.
so I had to hear what you were going to say. And that totally fits exactly what exactly I thought you would probably do.
Yeah, I
You
buy
are
Well,
lunch,
going
not
out,
leads.
meeting people, talking to people. You're going to go find it.
Yeah, I buy lunch, not leads. I will because you just never know. If I go
that's
have
great.
coffee, I'll meet somebody, I'll see somebody. Or if I'm there, somebody might overhear us. I always am just, why not? Like you got to go eat every day anyway or grab some coffee. Do it in public. Do it at a place in an area where you might want to work. And you just never know in conversations who you're going to come up with. Today, I just got a text, and this is what matters to me. I got a text today from one of my clients. I sold a house to them 2 years ago. I had just sent them a little congrats. It's 2-year home anniversary on Saturday. And they're the sweetest little couple. And she reached out to me today because she's like, she calls me Miss Sherry. She's like, Miss Sherry, and she's like, she needed help finding a particular lawyer for their restaurant. And she's like, I just feel, I know you know people, I trust you. And that's what I care
Mhm.
about. And I want to be that resource. It doesn't have to be about a house. It can be whatever, because we never know where that's going to lead. And that just further strengthens that relationship. Um, yeah, I'm in the business of, having a great day and trying to leave everybody a little bit better. And whatever that is, whether it's helping the lady with the probate thing and making sure she knows she has a resource, or my clients reaching out, like, and in my mind, I'm like, I don't know what lawyers do I know, but I'm dedicated to wanting to help her. So
Mhm.
I started thinking, oh, I have a friend whose husband's a lawyer. Let me find out what kind of law he's in. He'll probably know something. And I trust them. So I want to do that extra mile. I will do those things. And I always have felt like that has done nothing but serve me really well in life and business. So
I love it.
I
That
do
was
too.
such a great answer. What a great way to to kind of wrap that up from how we started to then wrapping it up at the end. I buy lunch, not leads. I mean, Sherri, you are just such a delight, and
I mean,
your
I feel
clients
like
are so lucky to, to work with you. And I just am really impressed with just your whole energy, your vibe, and just the commitment you've made to your craft and to the relationships and to the people that you serve.
and I feel like you're going to come back again because I feel like we still have so much to talk about.
I know.
We
Yeah.
still have so much to talk about, but you're coming back again. So
I'll be ready.
You'll be back on.
Give me the hot seat. Yeah, the bullet points, and I'll just knock them out. That way, I won't talk as much. But
No, but
that's
what we
what we
want.
love about you.
That's what we love about you.
all right, cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
All
And
right.
we will see you all next on another agent conversation, taking it from word on the street to video with coaches on call. Thanks so
Awesome.
much, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.